Jake Morrison wiped his hands on his work clothes and looked up from the engine room of the starship Starbound. The ship was shaking more than usual as it moved through space. He had been working for 3 hours trying to fix the power problems, but the old ship kept giving him trouble. "Jake, we're almost there," came a voice from the communication system. It was Ambassador Lisa Chen calling from the bridge. "Come up and see this. You won't believe your eyes." Jake put down his tools and walked through the narrow halls of their small ship. When he reached the bridge, he stopped and stared through the big window. In front of them was the biggest thing he had ever seen floating in space. Convergence Station looked like a small city made of metal and lights. It was bigger than any human building Jake had ever heard of. Ships from all over the galaxy were flying around it like tiny insects around a giant flower. Some ships were so strange that Jake could not figure out how they even moved through space. "Amazing, isn't it?" Lisa said. She was a smart woman who had spent years learning about alien cultures. This station was built by 12 different alien races working together. Today, the most important people from across the galaxy are gathering here. Jake nodded but felt very small. The human ship looked like a toy next to the alien vessels around them. "Why are we here again?" he asked. "Princess Zethara of the Velthari Empire is choosing a husband," Lisa explained. "This choice will decide which alien race becomes the most powerful in the galaxy. The humans were invited, but everyone knows we're not really in the running. We're just here to watch and learn." Their ship moved slowly toward the docking area. Jake could see that the station was designed to hold ships of many different shapes and sizes. The human section was small and located far from the center, which made it clear that humans were not considered important guests. When they landed, Jake helped carry their things to their rooms. The halls of the station were huge and filled with aliens he had only seen in pictures before. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, but others moved in ways that seemed impossible. Some floated in the air while others crawled along the walls. Lisa led Jake to the main meeting hall where the ceremony would begin. The room was so big that Jake could barely see the other side. In the center was a stage made of some kind of glowing crystal. Around the stage, different alien groups sat in sections marked by strange symbols. The human section had only 20 seats, and they were located near the back. Jake felt embarrassed as he looked around at the other groups. The Zephyrian War Clan section had hundreds of warriors wearing black armor. The Cerebral Collective area hummed with strange energy, as their members shared thoughts without speaking. The Nexus Federation section glowed with advanced technology that Jake could not understand. "Don't feel bad," Lisa whispered to Jake. "Humans have only been traveling in space for 50 years. These races have been building empires for thousands of years." Music began to play, but it was unlike any music Jake had ever heard. It seemed to come from the air itself and made his skin tingle. Lights dimmed across the huge room and everyone became quiet. Princess Zethara walked onto the stage, and Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. She was tall and graceful, with blue-green skin that seemed to glow softly in the light. Her eyes were large and bright, and when she looked across the crowd, Jake felt like she could see into his soul. "People of the galaxy," the princess began. Her voice was clear and strong, and somehow Jake could understand her even though she was speaking in her own language. Translation devices must be working throughout the station. "Today I must make the most important choice of my life. This choice will not only decide my future, but the future of billions of people across many worlds." The princess paused and looked around the room. "My people have always believed that strength comes from working together. That is why I will not simply choose based on which race is the most powerful. Instead, I will test each group to see what they can offer to our galaxy's future." Jake watched as 3 figures stood up from different sections of the room. The first was Commander Kexthor from the Zephyrian War Clans. He was huge and covered in scars from many battles. His people believed that only the strong deserved to rule, and they had conquered many worlds to prove their point. The second was High Scholar Morden from the Cerebral Collective. His head was much larger than a human head, and his eyes glowed with intelligence. His people had joined their minds together into one great thinking machine that could solve any problem. The third was Prince Velshan from the Nexus Federation. He looked almost human, but his skin had a metallic shine and tiny lights moved under its surface. His people had built machines so advanced that they seemed like magic. Each of these 3 spoke about what their race could offer the princess and her empire. Commander Kexthor promised military strength that would protect the galaxy from any enemy. High Scholar Morden offered knowledge and wisdom beyond anything anyone had ever imagined. Prince Velshan presented technology that could solve every problem and make life perfect for everyone. Jake felt very small as he listened to these promises. What could humans offer compared to such amazing things? They had no great armies, no incredible intelligence, and no magical technology. They were just people trying to do their best in a galaxy full of wonders they barely understood. But as Jake watched Princess Zethara listen to each suitor, he noticed something. She looked thoughtful but not impressed. It was as if she was looking for something that none of them were offering. "The trials will begin tomorrow," the princess announced. "Each race will be tested in ways that will show their true character. Only then will I make my choice." As the ceremony ended and people began to leave, Jake stayed in his seat for a moment. He looked up at the stage where Princess Zethara was speaking quietly with her advisors. For just a moment, her eyes met his across the huge room. She seemed surprised to see him looking at her, and something in her expression made Jake think that maybe, just maybe, there was more to this contest than anyone realized. The next morning, Jake woke up to the sound of alarms echoing through the station. He quickly got dressed and found Lisa in the hallway. Other humans were running around, looking confused and worried. "What's happening?" Jake asked. "The first trial is starting," Lisa said. "It's a military test. Each race has to show how well they can fight." They hurried to the observation deck where they could watch the trial safely. Through the big windows, Jake could see a large empty space near the station, where holographic enemies had appeared. These fake enemies looked real and would fight back just like real ones. Commander Kexthor's warriors went first. They moved like a perfect fighting machine. Their ships were black and scary-looking, with weapons that could destroy anything in their path. The Zephyrian fighters worked together like wolves, surrounding their enemies and attacking without mercy. They finished the test in less than 10 minutes, leaving nothing but space dust behind. "Impressive," Lisa said quietly. "No wonder they've conquered so many worlds." Next came the Cerebral Collective. They didn't use traditional weapons at all. Instead, they used their combined mind power to control the enemy ships and turn them against each other. It was like watching a chess master play against children. The enemies never had a chance because the collective could predict every move before it happened. Prince Velshan's people went third. Their ships looked like they were made of liquid metal and light. They used weapons that Jake couldn't even understand. Some enemies simply disappeared, while others stopped working as if someone had turned off a switch. The Nexus Federation made war look easy and clean. Then it was humanity's turn. Jake watched nervously as the few human ships moved into position. They looked so small and weak compared to what they had just seen. The human pilots were brave, but everyone knew they didn't have advanced weapons or special powers. The holographic enemies appeared, and the human ships immediately started taking damage. Their shields were failing, and their weapons barely scratched the enemy ships. Jake felt embarrassed for his entire species. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of trying to match the enemy's firepower, the human ships started doing something different. They began working together in a way that none of the other races had tried. One ship would draw enemy fire while another attacked from behind. When a human ship got damaged, others would surround it to protect it while it repaired itself. The humans were losing ships, but they never gave up. When their weapons stopped working, they used their ships as shields for others. When they ran out of ammunition, they used their engines to ram enemy ships. They fought with heart and determination even when victory seemed impossible. "Look at that," Lisa said with surprise in her voice. "They're not winning, but they're not running away either." Jake noticed that other aliens were starting to pay attention to the human fight. Even though the humans were clearly outmatched, something about their refusal to quit was catching people's interest. When the test ended, the humans had lost more ships than anyone else, but they had also saved 3 damaged civilian ships that were part of the test scenario. No other race had even tried to save the civilian ships. Princess Zethara announced the results. The Zephyrians showed superior military strength. The Cerebral Collective demonstrated perfect strategy. The Nexus Federation displayed advanced technology, but the humans showed us something else entirely. They showed us that winning isn't everything. The second trial began the next day. This time it was a test of intelligence and problem-solving. Each race was given a complex puzzle that involved managing resources across multiple star systems, while dealing with natural disasters and political problems. High Scholar, Morden's collective mind processed information faster than any computer. They saw patterns and solutions that others missed completely. Their answer was mathematically perfect and would save the most lives with the least cost. Prince Velshan used his people's advanced technology to model thousands of different solutions at once. His final answer was so complex and sophisticated that most other races couldn't even understand how it worked, but it would solve every problem perfectly. Commander Kexthor approached the problem like a military campaign. His solution involved using force to control the situation and make people follow orders. It wasn't elegant, but it would work through sheer determination and strength. When it was Jake's turn to represent humanity, he felt nervous. He wasn't the smartest human on their team, but Lisa had chosen him because she said he had common sense. Jake didn't understand what good common sense would do against such brilliant minds. Jake looked at the problem for a long time. While the other races focused on the technical details, Jake found himself thinking about the people involved. He noticed that the problem included families being separated by disasters, children losing their parents, and old people being left behind during evacuations. Instead of trying to solve the problem with math or technology, Jake created a solution that focused on keeping families together and making sure no one was abandoned. His answer wasn't the most efficient and it wouldn't save the most money, but it was the one that would cause the least suffering. When Jake presented his solution, many of the aliens looked confused. High Scholar Morden said that Jake's approach was emotionally driven and logically inefficient. Prince Velshan called it primitive and overly simplified. Commander Kexthor said it was weak and unrealistic, but Princess Zethara listened carefully to Jake's explanation. She asked questions about why he had made certain choices, and Jake explained that sometimes the best solution isn't the one that looks perfect on paper, but the one that people can actually live with. Interesting, the princess said. You approached this problem differently than anyone else. While others sought to optimize the outcome, you sought to minimize the suffering. That is a perspective we have not considered. The third trial was about leadership. Each race had to guide a mixed group of volunteers through a crisis simulation. The volunteers came from different alien species and had different abilities and ways of thinking. Commander Kexthor tried to lead through strength and commands. Some of the volunteers followed him, especially the ones from warrior cultures, but others became scared or angry when he shouted orders at them. High Scholar Morden attempted to lead through pure logic, explaining exactly why each action was necessary. The more intelligent volunteers understood and followed his plan, but many others became confused and couldn't keep up with his complex instructions. Prince Velshan used advanced technology to give each volunteer the perfect tool for their job. His leadership was efficient and effective, but it made the volunteers feel like they were just parts in a machine rather than individuals. When Jake's turn came, he didn't try to be the smartest or strongest or most advanced. Instead, he spent time talking to each volunteer, learning about their abilities and concerns. He found ways to make everyone feel useful and important, even those who didn't have special skills. During the crisis simulation, Jake's group faced the same problems as the others: fires, equipment failures, and people getting lost in dark tunnels. But instead of solving everything himself, Jake helped his team members solve problems together. When someone made a mistake, he didn't get angry. Instead, he helped them fix it and learn from it. Jake's team didn't finish the fastest, and their solution wasn't the most technically perfect. But something interesting happened during their test. The volunteers from different alien species began helping each other in ways that had never been seen before. A Zephyrian warrior carried an injured collective member. A Nexus Federation engineer taught a human how to use advanced tools. Everyone worked together like they were all part of the same family. When the trial ended, many of the volunteers didn't want to leave Jake's team. Some of them asked if they could join the human group permanently. Princess Zethara watched all of this with great interest. After the third trial, she called for a break before announcing her decision. That evening, Jake was walking alone through one of the station's gardens when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and was shocked to see Princess Zethara approaching him. She was alone, without any guards or advisors. "May I walk with you?" she asked. Jake nodded, too surprised to speak. They walked in silence for a few minutes before the princess spoke again. "Your people are very different from what I expected. she said. When the invitation was sent to Earth, my advisors told me that humans were primitive and had nothing to offer. But these trials have shown me something else, and what's that? Jake asked, finding his voice. Your people don't try to be perfect, she said. Instead, you try to be better. There's a difference. Jake and Princess Zethara continued walking through the garden. The space was beautiful, with plants and flowers from many different worlds growing together under artificial sunlight. Jake had never seen anything like it. What did you mean about trying to be better instead of perfect? Jake asked. The princess stopped beside a small tree with silver leaves. The Zephyrians believe they are perfect warriors. The Cerebral Collective thinks they have perfect knowledge. The Nexus Federation claims they have perfect technology. But perfection means you cannot grow or change anymore. She touched one of the silver leaves gently. Humans are different. You make mistakes, you fail sometimes, but you always try to learn and improve. That quality is rarer in the galaxy than you might think. Jake looked around at the amazing garden and the incredible station surrounding them. But look at what these other races have built. They've achieved things humans can only dream about. Yes, they have, the princess agreed. But tell me, Jake Morrison, what do humans dream about? Jake thought for a moment. I guess we dream about exploring new places, meeting new people, building better lives for our children. We dream about understanding the universe and finding our place in it. And do you think those dreams will ever end? No, Jake said without hesitation. Even if we achieved everything we wanted, we'd probably just start dreaming about bigger things. Princess Zethara smiled. Exactly. That is what the galaxy has lost. The Zephyrians stopped dreaming when they decided conquest was enough. The Collective stopped dreaming when they thought pure knowledge was the answer. The Federation stopped dreaming when they believed technology could solve everything. Over the next few days, Jake found himself spending more time with the princess. She would find him during his work breaks and ask him questions about human culture, history, and beliefs. Jake was amazed by how interested she was in ordinary human things. Tell me about human families, she said one day as they sat in the station's observation lounge. Jake described how human families worked. Parents taking care of children, children growing up and taking care of their parents when they got old, brothers and sisters supporting each other through good times and bad times. In my culture, the princess said, families are mostly about political alliances. Children are raised to serve the empire's needs. Love exists, but it comes second to duty. That sounds lonely, Jake said. It is, she admitted. That's one reason why this choice is so difficult for me. Whoever I marry, it will be about what's best for the empire, not about what I feel in my heart. Jake felt sorry for her. Despite all her power and wealth, she seemed trapped by her responsibilities. What would you choose if you could pick anyone? Jake asked. Princess Zethara looked out at the stars through the lounge window. I would choose someone who could help me build a better future for everyone, not just my own people. Someone who sees possibilities instead of just problems. Someone who understands that the strongest civilizations are built on hope, not fear. While they were talking, Ambassador Lisa approached them. Jake, I hate to interrupt, but we have a problem. There's been some kind of accident in the lower levels of the station. They hurried to the command center where aliens from different races were arguing loudly. Jake couldn't understand what they were saying, but he could see on the screens that something was very wrong. What happened? Princess Zethara asked one of her advisors. There was an explosion in the power systems, the advisor explained. The backup life support is failing in sections 7 through 12. Those areas house the smaller delegations and service workers. Jake looked at the screens showing the affected areas. How many people are trapped? About 3,000, the advisor said. We're working on solutions, but it will take time to repair the systems. Commander Kexthor stepped forward. My warriors can break through the damaged areas and evacuate the most important people first. The logical approach is to calculate which individuals have the highest value to the station's function. High Scholar Morden added. Prince Velshan activated some kind of holographic display. My technology can create temporary atmosphere fields, but only for the areas with the most advanced species. Jake listened to their solutions and felt sick. They were all talking about saving some people but not others, deciding who was important enough to rescue first. What about everyone else? Jake asked. The aliens looked at him strangely. Resources are limited, Commander Kexthor said. Difficult choices must be made. The greatest good for the greatest number, High Scholar Morden agreed. Jake turned to Princess Zethara. You have 3,000 people dying and they want to save only the ones they think are important. That's not right. Before anyone could stop him, Jake was running toward the damaged sections. He grabbed an emergency kit from the wall and headed for the nearest emergency exit. "Jake, wait," Lisa called after him. "It's too dangerous." But Jake was already gone. He knew the station's maintenance tunnels from his work on their ship. If he could reach the trapped areas through the service routes, maybe he could help people until the main rescue teams figured out their plans. Princess Zethara watched Jake disappear into the tunnels. Then she turned to her advisors. "Get me every available rescue team. We're going to save everyone." "Your Highness," one advisor said, "the other suitors are offering more efficient solutions." "Efficient solutions that abandon half the people on this station," she replied firmly. "That's not the kind of efficiency I want in a partner." Jake crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnels, following the station blueprints he had memorized while working on their ship. The air was getting thinner, and he could hear the sound of failing systems all around him. When he reached the first trapped section, he found dozens of aliens from various races huddled together in fear. Many of them were service workers, cooks, cleaners, technicians. They were the people who kept the station running but weren't considered important by their governments. "Don't worry," Jake told them. "Help is coming." Using his engineering knowledge, Jake managed to reroute some power to extend the life support in that section. It wasn't a permanent fix, but it would give them more time. As he worked, other humans began arriving through the tunnels. Lisa had organized the entire human delegation to help with the rescue effort. They might not have advanced technology, but they knew how to work with their hands and how to stay calm in emergencies. Soon, aliens from other races began joining the rescue effort too. They had been inspired by the human willingness to risk their lives for strangers. Zephyrian warriors used their strength to move heavy debris. Collective members used their intelligence to coordinate rescue routes. Federation technicians provided advanced tools. What started as a human rescue mission became something much bigger. For the first time in the station's history, people from different races were working together as equals, not as competitors or political allies. Princess Zethara arrived in the damaged sections wearing an emergency suit. She worked alongside everyone else, helping to carry injured people to safety and organizing supply distribution. "Your Highness," Commander Kexthor said when he saw her, "this is beneath your station. You should let others handle this work." "If caring for my people is beneath me," she replied, "then I don't deserve to be their leader." The rescue took 18 hours. When it was over, all 3,000 trapped people had been saved. More importantly, something had changed on the station. The barriers between different races seemed less important than they had before. Jake was exhausted and covered in dirt when Princess Zethara found him in the medical bay getting treatment for minor injuries. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" Jake asked. "For showing me what real leadership looks like," she said, "and for proving that my instincts about humans were correct." Jake looked confused. "What instincts?" Princess Zethara sat down beside him. "That humans don't just offer something different to the galaxy. You offer something better. You see people as people, not as resources or tools or political pieces. You believe that everyone matters, not just the strong or smart or advanced ones." "Doesn't everyone believe that?" Jake asked. The princess shook her head sadly. "No, Jake, they don't, and that's exactly why the galaxy needs humans more than it needs another perfect warrior race or superintelligent, collective or advanced technology." As news of the rescue spread throughout the station, Jake noticed that people were looking at humans differently now. Instead of dismissing them as primitive, other races were starting to ask questions about human values and ideas. But Jake also noticed something else. The three main suitors were not happy about the attention humans were getting. Commander Kexthor, High Scholar Mordun, and Prince Velshan had started meeting together privately, and their expressions suggested they were planning something. The trials were supposed to end tomorrow with Princess Zethara's final decision. But Jake had a feeling that the real test was just beginning. The next morning, the entire station gathered in the Great Hall for Princess Zethara's final decision. Jake sat with the human delegation, feeling nervous and out of place. The events of the past few days had changed everything, but he still couldn't believe that humans would be seriously considered for such an important choice. The three main suitors sat in their special sections, each surrounded by their most important advisors and supporters. Commander Kexthor wore his finest battle armor, polished until it gleamed like a black mirror. High Scholar Morden's large head pulsed with soft light as his collective consciousness prepared for the announcement. Prince Velshan's metallic skin sparkled with tiny lights that moved in complex patterns. Princess Zethara entered the hall wearing a dress that seemed to be made of starlight itself. As she walked to the central stage, the entire room fell silent. Jake could feel the tension in the air like electricity before a storm. "People of the galaxy," the princess began, her voice carrying clearly to every corner of the huge room. "The trials are finished. I have seen what each race offers, and I have made my decision." She paused and looked around the room, her eyes stopping for a moment on each of the three main suitors. The Zephyrian war clans offer strength and military power. Under their protection, the Velthari Empire would become unconquerable. No enemy would dare challenge us. Commander Kexthor stood and bowed, confidence written across his scarred face. The Cerebral Collective offers knowledge and wisdom beyond measure. With their intelligence, we could solve problems that have puzzled the galaxy for thousands of years. High Scholar Morden's eyes glowed brighter as he nodded his large head. The Nexus Federation offers technology that seems like magic. With their machines, we could build a perfect civilization where want and suffering are eliminated. Forever. Prince Velshan smiled and activated some kind of light display that made beautiful patterns. In the air around him, Princess Zethara continued, "Each of these offers is remarkable. Each would bring great benefits to my people and to the galaxy. But during these trials, I have learned something important about what the galaxy truly needs." She walked to the edge of the stage, closer to where the different delegations sat. "We live in a time when many civilizations have achieved greatness in their own ways. We have powerful armies, brilliant minds, and amazing technology. But we have also become isolated from each other, competing instead of cooperating, judging instead of understanding." Jake noticed that some of the aliens in the audience were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. "The galaxy has grown strong, but it has also grown cold," the princess said. "We have forgotten how to dream together, how to grow together, how to care for each other as one people instead of many separate races." She turned to look directly at the human section. "There is one race here that has not forgotten these things. One race that still believes in the possibility of a better future for everyone. One race that sees strength not in perfection, but in the endless capacity to improve and adapt and care for others." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. Around him, the other humans were looking at each other with expressions of amazement and disbelief. "I choose the humans," Princess Zethara announced. "And specifically, I choose Jake Morrison to be my partner in building a new kind of civilization." The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Then the hall exploded into chaos. Commander Kexthor jumped to his feet, his face red with anger. "This is an insult to every warrior who has ever lived. You reject strength for weakness." High Scholar Morden's collective voice spoke as one. "This decision is illogical. The humans have no significant advantages over the established powers." Prince Velshan's lights flickered rapidly as his calm mask finally slipped. "You choose primitives over the most advanced race in the galaxy. Your people will suffer for this foolishness." Jake sat frozen in his seat, unable to believe what he had just heard. Lisa grabbed his arm. "Jake, she chose you. She actually chose you." Princess Zethara raised her hand for silence, but the shouting continued. Many of the alien delegates were on their feet, some cheering, others protesting loudly. The Velthari advisors looked shocked and worried. "Silence," the princess commanded, her voice carrying an authority that made everyone stop talking. "I have made my choice and I will explain my reasons." She looked directly at Jake as she spoke. "Jake Morrison represents everything I have come to admire about humanity. He does not seek power for himself, but uses whatever power he has to help others. He does not claim to have all the answers, but he never stops trying to find better solutions. He sees the value in every person regardless of their race or status." Jake slowly stood up, his legs feeling weak. "Your Highness, I don't understand. I'm just an engineer. I fix machines and solve simple problems. How can I help lead an empire?" Princess Zethara smiled. "Because you don't want to lead an empire, Jake. You want to help people. That's exactly the kind of leader the galaxy needs." Commander Kexthor's voice boomed across the hall. "You will regret this decision, Princess. When your enemies come for you, your human pets will not be able to protect you. Is that a threat? Princess Zethara asked, her voice suddenly cold. It is a promise, the commander replied. The strong do not accept insults from the weak. High Scholar Morden spoke more calmly but with equally dangerous words. The collective calculates a 97.3% probability that this alliance will fail within 1 standard year. When it does, do not expect our help. Prince Velshan stood and began walking toward the exit. The Federation withdraws all offers of friendship and trade. Your empire will stand alone. As the 3 rejected suitors left the hall with their followers, Jake noticed something troubling. They were leaving together, and they were talking quietly among themselves. These 3 races had been competitors just minutes ago, but now they seemed to be planning something together. Princess Zethara noticed it too. It appears we have made some powerful enemies, she said quietly to Jake. Are you sure about this? Jake asked. Maybe you should reconsider. I don't want to be the reason your people get hurt. The princess took his hand. Jake, do you remember what you told me about human families? How they take care of each other through good times and bad? Jake nodded. That's what I want for the galaxy, she said. Not an empire built on fear or a collective that eliminates individuality or a federation that reduces people to numbers in a machine. I want a community where different races help each other grow and learn and become better than they ever could alone. Around them, the Great Hall was still buzzing with excitement and worry. Some alien delegates were approaching the human section to congratulate them, while others were leaving quickly. Lisa came over to where Jake and the princess were standing. Your Highness, I need to be honest with you. Earth doesn't have the military strength to protect your empire if those 3 races decide to attack. I know, Princess Zethara replied, but maybe we don't need to match their strength. Maybe we need to find a different way to solve this problem. Jake looked around at the confused and excited faces in the hall. What kind of different way? The princess smiled. The human way. Instead of trying to defeat our enemies, maybe we can show them a better path. Instead of building walls to keep them out, maybe we can build bridges to bring others in. That sounds nice, Jake said. But what if they don't want to listen? What if they really do try to hurt your people? Princess Zethara's expression became serious. Then we'll face that challenge the same way humans faced every challenge in their history. Together, with hope, and with the determination to protect what matters most. As they left the hall together, Jake could see through the station windows that ships were already leaving. Some were heading toward human space, but others were moving in formation toward the edges of Velthari territory. The choice had been made, but the real test was just beginning. Jake Morrison, a simple engineer from Earth, was about to find out if human values could survive in a galaxy that had forgotten how to hope. Later that night, emergency signals began arriving from the outer colonies. The 3 rejected suitors had not gone home to accept their defeat. Instead, they had formed an alliance of their own, and they were gathering their fleets for war. Princess Zethara found Jake in the engineering section where he was working on the human ship's engines. We need to go, she said simply. My people are in danger, and we need to get home to help defend them. Jake put down his tools and looked at her. Are you having second thoughts about choosing humans? She shook her head. No, Jake, but I am scared. What if I'm wrong? What if human ideals aren't strong enough to stand against military might and advanced technology? Jake thought about all the stories he knew of humans facing impossible odds. Ancient armies standing against overwhelming enemies. Explorers sailing into unknown oceans. Scientists challenging established ideas even when everyone said they were wrong. Maybe we can't match their weapons or their technology, Jake said. But humans have one advantage that nobody else seems to understand. What's that? Jake smiled. We're too stubborn to give up even when everyone tells us we should. 3 weeks later, Jake stood on the bridge of a Velthari warship, looking at displays showing enemy fleets approaching from 3 different directions. The alliance between the Zephyrians, Cerebral Collective, and Nexus Federation had moved faster than anyone expected. They're not just attacking our military targets, Princess Zethara said, studying the reports. They're going after civilian colonies, trade routes, anything that supports our economy. Jake had never thought he would be in charge of defending an interstellar empire, but Princess Zethara had insisted that he help lead their response. You see things differently, she had told him. We need that perspective now more than ever. The numbers were not encouraging. The enemy alliance had more ships, better weapons, and superior technology. Military advisors were already talking about which colonies they would have to abandon to protect the core worlds. "What do our allies say?" Jake asked. Princess Zethara's expression was grim. "Most of them are staying neutral. They're afraid to anger the three major powers. The few who support us publicly don't have strong enough militaries to make a difference." Jake looked at the star map showing enemy movements. "So we're basically alone." "It appears so," she said. But Jake was thinking about something else. During their time at Convergence Station, he had noticed that many smaller races had been interested in human ideas about cooperation and equality. These races were not powerful individually, but together they might be able to help. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" Jake said. "What if we don't try to match their military strength?" "What do you mean?" Jake pointed to the star map. "Look at all these smaller races and colonies between here and the enemy fleets. Right now they're staying neutral because they're scared. But what if we could show them that they have something to gain by helping us?" Princess Zethara looked skeptical. "Jake, these are practical people. They're not going to risk their lives for ideas about cooperation." "Maybe not," Jake said, "but they might risk their lives for their families." Over the next few days, Jake worked with human diplomats to send messages to every small colony and minor race in the surrounding space. The message was simple. The three-power alliance wasn't just attacking the Velthari Empire. They were establishing a new order where only the strongest races mattered. If they succeeded, every smaller civilization would eventually be conquered or forced to submit. "Join us," the human message said. "Not because we promise you power or wealth, but because we promise you freedom. Freedom to grow, to change, to be yourselves without fear." The response was slow at first. A few mining colonies agreed to share intelligence about enemy ship movements. Some trading groups offered to carry supplies. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The real turning point came when the enemy alliance attacked a refugee convoy. The convoy was carrying civilians from several different races who were fleeing the war zone. According to the rules of war, they should have been allowed to pass safely, but Commander Kexthor's forces attacked them anyway, claiming they might be carrying supplies to the enemy. Jake was on a patrol ship when they received the distress call. "We have to help them," he told the Velthari captain. "Our orders are to avoid engagement with superior enemy forces," the captain replied. "There are children on those ships," Jake said. The captain looked at his tactical display. "We would be outnumbered 4-1. It would be suicide." Jake thought about the trials at Convergence Station, when humans had chosen to save everyone instead of just the important people. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the dangerous thing to do. Against military logic, the Velthari captain agreed to attempt a rescue. Their small patrol ship couldn't match the enemy's firepower, but they managed to create enough confusion to allow most of the refugee ships to escape. The rescue was broadcast across the galaxy's communication networks. Images of human and Velthari ships working together to save families from different races spread from system to system. The effect was immediate. Smaller races that had been neutral suddenly started offering more help. Not just supplies and intelligence, but actual ships and crews. They had seen what Jake had seen, that this war was about more than just politics. As more allies joined them, Jake found himself coordinating a very different kind of military force. Instead of massive fleets with matching ships and unified command structures, they had small groups from dozens of different races, each with their own strengths and abilities. Traditional military doctrine said this should have been a disaster. Mixed forces with different technologies and tactics were supposed to be weak and disorganized. But Jake discovered something interesting. Diversity was actually an advantage. When the Zephyrian fleet used their standard attack patterns, Jake's mixed forces responded in ways the enemy couldn't predict. Ships from different races had different capabilities, so while the enemy was prepared to fight Velthari ships, they struggled against tactics they had never seen before. The Cerebral Collective tried to use their mental abilities to predict and counter human strategies, but human thinking was too chaotic and emotional for them to read clearly. Every time they thought they understood what Jake was planning, he would change his approach based on some new factor they hadn't considered. The Nexus Federation's advanced technology was designed to be superior to everything else in the galaxy, but it couldn't adapt quickly to unexpected situations. When Jake's forces used outdated ships in new ways or combined technologies that were never meant to work together, The Federation's perfect systems couldn't compute effective responses. The war continued for months, but gradually the balance began to shift. Jake's alliance was not winning through superior firepower, but through something more powerful: hope. Stories spread throughout the galaxy about the mixed fleets where different races worked together as equals. Planets that had been conquered by the three-power alliance began to rebel, inspired by the example of the human-led coalition. The final battle took place near Earth itself. The enemy alliance had decided to destroy humanity's homeworld to prove that their way was the only way that worked. Jake stood on the bridge of the command ship as hundreds of vessels from dozens of races took position around Earth. Most of them were not powerful warships, but they were crewed by people who believed in something worth fighting for. "This is Commander Kexthor," came a voice over the communication system. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Jake opened a channel to respond. "This is Jake Morrison. We're not going to surrender, and we're not going to let you destroy our world or anyone else's. You cannot win," High Scholar Mordoon's collective voice added. "Our analysis shows that your forces are still significantly outnumbered and outgunned." "Maybe," Jake replied, "but you're forgetting something important. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for everyone who believes that the galaxy can be better than it is." Prince Velshan's voice was cold and mechanical. "Idealism will not stop our weapons." "You're right," Jake said, "but it will stop you." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. As the fighting began, something unexpected happened. Ships from neutral systems began arriving to join Jake's forces. Even some crews from the three-power alliance began switching sides when they saw what they were really fighting against. The turning point came when a group of Zephyrian warriors abandoned Commander Kexthor's fleet and joined the human alliance. They had realized that true strength wasn't about conquering others, but about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. When High Scholar Mordoon saw members of his own collective breaking away to think for themselves, he began to understand that knowledge without wisdom was empty. Prince Velshan watched his perfect technology fail against the unpredictable creativity of the mixed alliance, and he realized that perfection was not the same as progress. The three-power alliance fell apart not because they were defeated in battle, but because their own people chose a different path. In the end, Commander Kexthor, High Scholar Mordoon, and Prince Velshan found themselves alone with only their most loyal followers. They could have continued fighting, but they had lost the war of ideas. "It's over," Princess Zathara said to Jake as they watched the enemy fleets retreat. "No," Jake replied, looking at the mixed fleet of ships around them, representing dozens of races working together. "I think it's just beginning." 6 months later, Jake and Princess Zathara stood together on the rebuilt Convergence Station. But this time it looked very different. Instead of separate sections for different races, the station had been redesigned as a place where everyone could meet and learn from each other. The wedding ceremony was attended by representatives from across the galaxy, including former enemies who had come to understand that cooperation was stronger than competition. "Do you ever regret your choice?" Jake asked Princess Zathara as they looked out at the stars together. She smiled and took his hand. "Never. You taught me something important, Jake Morrison." "What's that?" "That the best leaders aren't the ones who think they're perfect. They're the ones who help others become the best versions of themselves, as they watch ships from hundreds of different worlds arriving and departing in friendship rather than fear." Jake realized that the galaxy had indeed chosen a new path, not because humans were